Three's Company brought joy and laughter into homes across America with lovable characters and unforgettable comedy. But behind the scenes, the cast faced heartbreaking tragedies from sudden illnesses to quiet personal struggles. Let's revisit their stories, honor their legacies, and remember the laughter they gave us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's begin. John Ritter as Jack Tripper. Jonathan Southworth. Ritter, born on September 17, 1948, became a household name for millions of American viewers through his role as Jack Tripper in the sitcom Three's Company. When he took on the role from 1977 to 1984, he was just 28 years old, a clumsy but charming culinary student constantly caught in laugh-out-loud situations while living with two female roommates. His mastery of physical comedy and innate charisma made him a beloved icon of American television comedy. Ritter's life held dark surprises. From a young age, he lived with a condition called coloboma in his right eye, which severely affected his vision. Yet he pushed through skepticism and never wavered in his pursuit of acting. His rise to success wasn't easy, and the cost of fame was steep. A collapsed marriage with his first wife, Nancy Morgan, after nearly 20 years together, and a work schedule so relentless, it drained him physically and emotionally. On September 11, 2003, while filming the show 8 Simple Rules at Walt Disney Studios, John suddenly collapsed with severe chest pain. Initially diagnosed with a heart attack, doctors began treatment, but his condition deteriorated rapidly. By 10:48 p.m. the same day, he had passed away at age 54. The real cause was confirmed to be an aortic dissection, a dangerous and often misdiagnosed condition that took his life just 6 days before his 55th birthday. Ritter's sudden death stunned Hollywood. Colleagues mourned deeply. Longtime co-star Joyce DeWitt called him unforgettable and impossible not to love. The final episodes he filmed were dedicated to his memory, and the entire direction of 8 Simple Rules changed after his loss. At the time of his passing, John Ritter's net worth was estimated at $20 million, a testament to a career built on heart humor and relentless dedication to the craft. Suzanne Summers as Chrissy Snow. Suzanne Marie Summers, born on October 16, 1946 in California, became the face of American television in the late 1970s, thanks to her portrayal of the lovable ditz Chrissy Snow in Three's Company. From 1977 to 1981, when she was 31 to 35 years old, Suzanne captured America's heart with her sunny looks and comedic charm. But behind her sweet smile was a stormy past and a life marked by painful turns. Suzanne grew up in a poor working-class household with an alcoholic, abusive father. When she was 17 years old, after he tore her prom dress and humiliated her, she fought back by hitting him with a tennis racket, a defining moment of resilience and inner strength. At 19, she entered a hasty marriage due to an unplanned pregnancy, only to divorce shortly after. Living in poverty, she was once arrested for check fraud. To pay for her injured son's medical bills, she posed for semi-nude photos early in her career images that Playboy later published without her full consent once she became a star. But the biggest blow came in 1980, when Suzanne demanded equal pay to John Ritter on Three's Company. ABC refused and retaliated by cutting her role, isolating her, and ultimately firing her. Once one of TV's brightest stars, she found herself blacklisted. Years later, she admitted that her fight for equal pay had killed her television career at the time. She made a major comeback in the 1990s with the successful sitcom Step by Step, and later reinvented herself as a health entrepreneur and author. However, her vocal support for alternative cancer treatments, especially bioidentical hormone therapy, drew intense criticism from the medical community. Still, Suzanne stood firm in her belief in holistic medicine, even if it may have hastened her tragic end. In 2000, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. After undergoing surgery and radiation, she rejected chemotherapy, a decision that sparked public debate. Though she lived another 23 years, the cancer returned in early 2023. She passed away peacefully at her Palm Springs home on October 15, 2023, just one day before her 77th birthday. At the time of her death, Suzanne Summers' net worth was estimated at $100 million, a reflection of her tenacity and ability to build her own empire against all odds. Anne Wedworth as Lana Shields F. Anne Wedworth, born on January 21, 1934 in Texas, was a sharp, charismatic actress who stood out with her role as Lana Shields, the older, widowed, and flirtatiously bold woman in Three's Company. When she joined the cast in 1979 at 45 years old, she brought a new kind of femininity to the show, confident, mature, and unapologetically yearning for affection. But it was that very role that triggered a string of behind-the-scenes tensions. Off-screen, Wedworth's life had its share of turbulence. Her first marriage to actor Rip Torn ended in divorce after 6 years, leaving her with one daughter. She later married director Ernie Martin and had another child, but her private life remained quiet and reserved. While she avoided scandals, professional tensions told a different story. Her role as Lana was abruptly cut after only 9 episodes, revealing a harsh truth. Even a Tony Award winner could be sidelined without explanation. Wedworth later admitted she had requested release from her contract after her character was increasingly marginalized. As time went on, her career centered on supporting roles, mothers, aunts, and aging women, though she always brought depth to each performance. However, a long-term illness which she never publicly disclosed forced her to retire. She spent her final years in a care home in North Bergen, New Jersey, far from the limelight and the audiences who once adored her. When she died in 2017, she quietly left the world at 83 years old. Anne Wedworth's net worth at the end of her life was estimated at just $1 million, reflecting a rich but unsung career. Don Knotts as Ralph Furley. Don Knotts' full name. Jesse Donald Knotts was born on July 21, 1924, in Morgantown, West Virginia. When he was 55 years old, he joined the cast of the hit sitcom Three's Company, 1979 to 1984, as Ralph Furley, the eccentric, overconfident landlord in flashy clothes who fancied himself a ladies' man. The role helped him win over a new generation of fans, following his legendary work on The Andy Griffith Show in the 1960s. Yet behind his ever-smiling face was a life marked by deep emotional scars and chronic illness. Born into poverty, Don grew up with a father suffering from schizophrenia who often threatened his children with a knife. He lived in constant fear, becoming a shy, withdrawn child. When he was 13 years old, his father died, leaving behind an emotionally wounded boy who would carry those burdens for life. Though he brought joy to millions, Don Knotts suffered from severe anxiety and depression. This deeply affected his personal relationships and work life. Both his marriages to Catherine Metz and Laura Lee Shuckna ended in divorce, largely due to his unpredictable moods and persistent health anxieties. Though described by friends as a ladies' man, Don never seemed to find lasting happiness in love. In his later years, he battled lung cancer and chronic pneumonia. His vision deteriorated dramatically from macular degeneration, rendering him nearly blind. Although he continued to work mainly doing voiceover for animated films like Chicken Little 2005 and Air Buddies 2006, Don gradually withdrew from public life. He passed away peacefully on February 24, 2006, at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles at the age of 81. At the time of his death, Don Knotts' net worth was estimated at $20 million earned through a career spanning over 50 years in television, film, and commercials. Audrey Lindley as Helen Roper. Audrey Lindley, born on September 24, 1918 in Los Angeles, became a television icon for her role as Helen Roper, the witty yet frustrated wife in Three's Company 1977 to 1979, and The Ropers. When she played the part at 59 years old, she portrayed a character both humorous and poignant. A woman trapped in a loveless marriage, sighing at her husband's indifference while revealing a deep, rich, emotional world beneath the curls of her signature wig and weary shrug. Lindley's career was anything but easy. She once left the stage to raise 5 children, enduring years of hardship, balancing family life with artistic ambition. Her first husband, Hardy Ulm, died in 1970, leaving her a single mother with heavy responsibilities. Her second marriage to actor James Whitmore seemed like a fresh start, but ended in divorce in 1979, the same year she departed from the Ropers. 2 broken marriages and the weight of single motherhood forged in her a resilience matched by silent sorrow. Her peak came late and was brief. Though she earned a Golden Globe nomination for her role as Helen Lindley, mostly took on supporting roles afterward, often playing lonely mothers or aging women forgotten by time. These parts mirrored her own reality as she quietly battled leukemia in her late 70s. Even with failing health, she kept working until the very end. While preparing to shoot a new episode of the sitcom Sybil, she was hospitalized at Cedars-Sinai and never returned to set. Audrey Lindley passed away on October 16, 1997, at 79 years old. Her ashes were quietly buried beside her parents at Woodlawn Cemetery in Santa Monica. At the time of her death, her net worth was estimated at $3 million, a modest sum reflecting a long career filled with roles, if not always recognition. Peter Mark Richmond as Reverend Snow, born Marvin. Jack Richmond, on April 16, 1927, is best known for his role as Reverend Luther Snow, the father of Chrissy Snow in the sitcom Three's Company. Appearing in the late 1970s when Richmond was 53 years old, his Reverend character created a stark contrast between strict morality and the free-spirited lifestyle of the younger generation, leading to moments that were both humorous and thought-provoking. Few people know that before becoming one of the most seasoned faces on American television, with over 130 roles, Peter was once a pharmacist. He followed the profession on his older brother's advice after losing his father at the age of 16. But the stage lights pulled him in a different direction, from supporting television roles to Broadway and dozens of film appearances. Though he never reached the height of an A-list star, he maintained a consistent presence for over half a century, appearing in Dynasty Santa Barbara, Star Trek: The Next Generation, and many other notable titles. But beyond the spotlight, Peter Mark Richmond lived a simple life, virtually free of scandal. He married his only wife, actress Helen Landis, in 1953, and remained with her until the end of his life. They had 5 children together, including acclaimed conductor Lucas Richmond. In his final years, he gradually withdrew from the public eye, his health declining due to age and heart issues, though he remained mentally sharp, often writing scripts and debating art with close friends. Peter Mark Richmond passed away on January 14, 2021, in Woodland Hills, California, at the age of 93. His net worth was estimated at around $1 million, a modest figure, yet reflective of the understated way he chose to live. Norman Feld as Stanley Roper. Norman Feld, born Norman. Noah Feld, on March 24, 1924, in Philadelphia, was 53 years old when he took on the role of Stanley Roper in the hit sitcom Three's Company, 1977-1979, a grumpy conservative landlord who constantly avoided his wife Helen's affection, yet never failed to make audiences laugh with his signature scowl, dry sarcasm, and waddling gait. But behind the stage lights, Norman Feld's life was filled with loneliness and personal heartbreak. He went through 3 marriages, none of which endured. His first marriage to Dolores Pecos ended after just 4 years. The next 2 didn't last either, though he had 2 daughters with his second wife and adopted a son with his last. While Norman made millions laugh on screen in real life, he was quiet, reserved, and emotionally distant from those closest to him, an invisible gap that fame couldn't bridge. In his final years, his health began to collapse. On Thanksgiving Day 1998, Norman became too weak to get out of bed on his own. After being rushed to the hospital, he was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, a severe, incurable cancer of the bone marrow at his age. In less than 3 weeks, the illness progressed rapidly, and he passed away on December 14, 1998, at the Motion Picture and Television Country House and Hospital in Woodland Hills, Los Angeles. At the time of his death, Norman Feld's net worth was estimated at $5 million, a reflection of a long, hard-working career that spanned from Ocean's 11 to The Graduate, with its peak marked by his Golden Globe-winning role in Three's Company. Fran Ryan as Grace. Fran Ryan, born on November 29, 1916, in Los Angeles. When she joined Three's Company in 1981 as Grace, she was 65 years old. Though she only appeared in a single episode, Fran left a lasting impression with her rustic charm, blunt demeanor, and unmistakable wit, hallmarks of the roles she took on throughout a career that spanned more than 50 years. But behind the humorous grandmother persona was a string of heartbreaking tragedies that could move anyone to tears. In 1949, Fran married Walter Kenneth Wayne. 2 years later, while she was pregnant with their first child, she received news that her husband had died in a plane crash he was piloting. Fighting through her grief to raise her child alone, Fran tried to rebuild her life and remarried Howard Schaefer in January 1953. But fate was cruel again. Howard also died in a mysterious plane crash in Oregon just months later. The wreckage went missing for 15 years, and when it was eventually found, no body remained, only personal items like a shoe, a few combs, and a pair of glasses. Despite such painful losses, Fran Ryan pressed on with her acting career, landing over 130 roles in television and film, from Gunsmoke Days of Our Lives, Green Acres, to voice work in animated shows like Hong Kong Phooey. She accumulated a net worth of $1 million, mostly from decades of dedicated work on sets and stages. On January 15, 2000, Fran Ryan passed away from chronic obstructive pulmonary disease at the age of 83. Her ashes were buried alongside her mother in the family plot at Holy Sepulchre Cemetery in Hayward, California in 2004. Robert Manden as James Bradford. Robert Manden, born on February 2, 1932, was 52 years old when he appeared in Three's A Crowd in 1984, playing James Bradford, the wealthy conservative father disapproving of his daughter's relationship with Jack Tripper. Though the series only lasted one season, Manden once again proved that a seasoned actor could elevate even a minor character into something memorable. Yet off-camera, his life was a long, quiet battle against an invisible enemy, cancer. Manden kept his diagnosis private for years. He never revealed the exact type of cancer, choosing instead to undergo treatment silently, while occasionally returning for guest roles in Star Trek Days of Our Lives and General Hospital. Friends and colleagues later shared that Manden had experienced several periods of remission. He died in Los Angeles on April 29, 2018, at 86 years old. Manden's personal life was marked by rare devotion. He was married to Sherry Dixon, a psychotherapist from 1963 until his death. For over half a century, they maintained a quiet, private marriage. But that same privacy also meant he lived and died in silence. After his passing, his body was cremated in a private ceremony. Though he never reached A-list stardom, Robert Manden left behind a net worth estimated at $5 million, largely earned from long-running television roles like soap and national stage tours. Don Porter as Uncle Fremont Tripper. Don Porter was born on September 24, 1912, in Miami, Oklahoma. When he appeared in Three's Company at age 65 to 68, he played Fremont Tripper, uncle of Jack Tripper, in a brief but memorable role. His dignified presence and warm, deep voice left a lasting impression, even though it was just one episode. But behind those polished performances was a quiet life filled with twists of fate. Don once lied about his age to join the Oklahoma National Guard when he was just 14 years old, a first sign of a life always ready to face challenges. During World War II, he didn't carry a gun, but worked as a combat photographer documenting life and death moments on the front lines. After the war, he turned to the stage, then television, appearing in over 200 theatrical productions and dozens of TV shows over nearly 50 years. His marriage to actress Peggy Converse lasted for decades, but was not without its shadows. His demanding career often kept him away from home, and in his later years he admitted to having sacrificed many precious things to stay under the spotlight. When Don entered his 80s, his health began to decline. He suffered from heart disease and experienced a series of mild heart failures until he could no longer continue acting. On February 11, 1997, he passed away at his home in Beverly Hills at the age of 84. The confirmed cause of death was heart disease and age-related complications. His net worth was estimated at around $2 million, earned primarily from his extensive work on Broadway in television and in film. Dick ONeal as Walter Nestle. Richard Francis. Dick ONeal was born on August 29, 1928. He became a familiar face on American television in the 1970s to 1990s, especially for his role as Walter Nestle at age 51 in Three's Company. With the look of an Irish dad and a warm, commanding voice, he was often cast as judges' police officers or stern father figures. But few knew that this dependable screen presence carried a quieter burden he rarely shared. Dick's personal life was tied closely to actress Jackie Shaw, whom he met while performing The Sound of Music. They had 3 daughters, Megan, Jillian, and Caitlin, and a seemingly peaceful home. Yet as a father often away filming for months at a time, family life wasn't without challenges. He once admitted that the biggest regret of his life wasn't losing out on a role but missing precious family moments he could never get back. On November 17, 1998, Dick ONeal died of heart failure at the age of 70 in Santa Monica, closing the chapter on a quiet life, much like the supporting characters he portrayed. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at around $1 million, enough to live comfortably, but modest for someone who contributed more than 30 years to American television. He left without fanfare or media buzz, but with an empty space in the hearts of those who saw him on screen and simply called him Dad. Irene Tedro as Martha. Irene Tedro was born on August 3, 1907. When she played Martha in the episode The Older Woman, 1979 of Three's Company, she was 72 years old. Although it was a minor role, she portrayed a deeply human figure, an older, stern, and experienced woman carrying hidden loneliness, a reflection of her real-life story. Irene's private life was far from easy. She married William Kent, a man who had fled Nazi Germany in search of freedom in the United States. Though their marriage never attracted scandal, it also never garnered much public attention. They had 2 children, Roger and Enid, and Irene often had to set aside personal happiness to pursue her art. Being both a mother and the financial backbone in such a demanding industry caused her considerable stress, especially as she was mostly known for supporting roles. As she aged, Irene became exhausted by her profession. She suffered a stroke in 1989, a harsh turning point that ended her acting career. For the next 6 years, she lived in health, battling the long-term effects of the stroke and the isolation that often comes with being forgotten by the very industry that once embraced her. Despite the sacrifices and ups and downs, Irene made her mark in numerous supporting roles from Dennis the Menace to Perry Mason, and she was especially remembered for her portrayal of Eleanor Roosevelt's grandmother in Eleanor and Franklin, a role that earned her an Emmy nomination when she was 69 years old. Her net worth was estimated at around $1 million, a humble sum for a career that lasted more than 60 years. On March 10, 1995, Irene Tedro passed away from complications related to the stroke she suffered years earlier at the age of 87. She left behind a legacy of strong-willed performances mirroring the kind of characters she portrayed: resilient, silent, and never willing to give up. Dick Sargent as Lloyd Cross. Dick Sargent, born Richard Stanford Cox on April 19, 1930 in California, appeared in Three's Company as Lloyd Cross when he was over 47 years old, a small guest role that carried his trademark charm. However, audiences remember him most as the second Darren Stevens in the iconic series Bewitched, where he replaced Dick York from 1969 to 1972. With a gentle smile and natural wit, he became a beloved figure in 1970s American television. But behind the scenes, Dick Sargent's life was filled with pain and loss. For over 20 years, he lived with a longtime partner whose name was never public until tragedy struck in 1979 when his partner suddenly died from a brain hemorrhage. The loss sent Sargent into depression, though he kept his grief private and continued acting while quietly contributing to charity work. In 1991, despite a still prejudiced society, he publicly came out as gay, a brave move intended to let young LGBTQ people know they were not alone. "I'm a retroactive role model," he once said, humorous yet deeply sincere. In 1989, he was diagnosed with prostate cancer. Though aggressively treated, the disease quietly spread. By early 1994, his health had significantly deteriorated. He died on July 8, 1994, at the age of 64. His body was cremated, ending a journey of which the public saw only the surface. His net worth at the time was estimated at around $1 million, mostly from bewitched other television work and promotional appearances. Priscilla Morrill as Mrs. Snow. Priscilla Morrill, born on June 4, 1927 in Boston, was a familiar face on American TV during the 1970s and 1980s. She appeared in Three's Company as Mrs. Snow, the strict, somewhat conservative mother of Chrissy, when she was over 50 years old. Although it was a supporting role, her presence brought nuance and a distinct flavor to the series. Still, her most memorable role was Edie Grant, the strong yet emotional wife of Lou Grant, in The Mary Tyler Moore Show. Off-screen, Morrill lived a quiet private life with her husband, Paul Bryson. They married in 1954, had no children, and lived modestly in Port Hueneme, California. Few knew that in her final years, Morrill battled a series of chronic health problems. A kidney infection, typically seen as minor, turned serious when it became chronic, causing her prolonged pain and repeated hospitalizations. Despite receiving care at Cedars-Sinai, she couldn't recover. She passed away on November 9, 1994, at the age of 67. Her body was cremated and her ashes were scattered at sea just as she had wished for a peaceful farewell. Priscilla Morrill's net worth was estimated at around $1 million, not a large sum by Hollywood standards, but reflective of a career built on quality and integrity. The tragedies behind Three's Company are not just stories of loss. They are reminders of the unforgettable marks these stars left behind. Which moment from the show do you remember most, and which actor do you still carry in your heart? Share your thoughts and help honor them by hitting that follow button so you don't miss the next moving tribute.